Hi, it's Maribeth Decker from Sacred Grove, and I'm with Erin Doherty today. Erin went through my class, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But she's a bird person, and I just love talking to people I know personally who are committed, really committed to the health of their animals and know a lot. So that's why I asked Erin to come in and talk a little bit. Let me share a little bit more about her. Erin is an intuitive animal healer. She's a graduate of my UConnect animal communication class. I got to put that in. I loved having her. And she helps parakeet guardians improve nutrition to mitigate tumors in flight challenged parakeets. Her goal is to restore mobility and harmony, which I love, to the whole flock. Erin's going to receive her Reiki Master certification in June 2021 from Maribeth. And Mara's in Four Directions Wellness here in Northern Virginia. If anybody's local, you might know Mara. And I also was really excited to see that Erin has taken some online veterinary technician courses through Penn Foster College. So she's out there learning, and you know, those of us who are learners, we always got to find something else to work on. And right now you're developing your website, and it's going to be yourheartlightreiki.com when we gets all together. So welcome, Erin. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, what led to birds? And tell me how many you have, and how did you get birds?
I came by the birds not intentionally. I took this 3-mile bus ride up the hill, up Massachusetts Avenue from DuPont Circle to where I live. And a woman in a neighboring apartment building, I won't say which one, was getting evicted. Now, I don't know if she couldn't pay her rent, or it could have been that she had 16 parakeets. And someone might have complained. I don't know. But I know that she took very good care of them. It was not hoarding. You know, people do judge people when they should not. And I know that she took really good care of the birds. And I knew nothing. I didn't know jack about birds, but 3-mile bus ride, somehow, I had just bought my condo at that time. And I had planned to get a dog because, you know, back then, back around 2004, people were not allowed to have pets very often in rental buildings. Right. I think that now it's becoming more common that people are allowed and they can have larger dogs than they used to, because it used to be like, oh, your dog has to be 20 pounds or yeah, a little mouse meat dog. Right. But now it's different. But back then, all I wanted to do was get a dog. And by the end of this bus ride, I bought this junior 1-bedroom 2, which is kind of code for large studios. So I couldn't really separate a dog from the birds. So I knew that if I took in birds, I couldn't have a dog at the same time, not safely. So by the end of the 3-mile bus ride, I was like, sure, I'll take a couple of your birds. I don't know anything about birds, but help me. So she taught me about birds. I got my first 2. Of course, back then the cage was too small and the nutrition was not where it should have been, because I had to learn. You know, I've been learning for, I don't know, 16 years, something about birds. And I've gotten much better, and I like to share that information. It's a big passion because I don't want other people to make the mistakes that I made early on.
That's really important. I think those of us who are digging into it, we're always looking to see, some of us anyway, really to see, like, are we really feeding them the right food, or, you know, are we giving them a happy environment, no matter what kind of animal we're living with. Yeah, we're always looking to make sure that we're doing a good job. And I'm so glad that you say it that way, because I don't know a lot about birds, so I'm hoping I'll learn. And then I'll share this with my bird friends.
And we have to keep that beginner's mind too. Like, I can't just stop and say, oh, I know so much. You know, you can never think of yourself as knowing everything, because there are always new discoveries, and you have to keep learning. You have to keep that hunger for knowledge to do better and better for the animals.
Absolutely. Is it now a good time to show your birds? Can we do that?
Sure, if you'd like. I didn't want to interrupt you while you're
No,
speaking.
I'm just, I don't
We'll
know.
take a little
I'm just
walk over here now. I don't know why they're all in the little cage. I call it the quarantine cage. That's where I bring a new bird for the first 2 months when I bring them in, so make sure they're healthy. Get them
I
vet
see.
checked, give them a gram stain. You know, they look at the poop under the microscope and all that. So this cage is way smaller than the one they live in. The one they live in is quite, big.
Right.
That's
Oh,
just the
yeah,
top of
that's
the cage.
beautiful.
But the little cage, I'll show. I don't know. Tell me when you
We
can
can
see
see
them.
them. Yeah.
That's
They're in the
everybody. Can
face.
you see all four?
I can.
Okay.
Hello,
Well,
sweethearts.
that's everybody.
So it's from left to right. Tell us who we're looking at. If from your left, I hope it's going to be the same as my left.
I wondered about that too. The white bird on my left.
That's our left.
Okay, is Cricket.
Okay, Cricket.
Cricket hatched here, actually. She's the only one who didn't come from the shelter.
Hi.
Okay, and the next one over is Frankie.
Okay, hi, Frankie.
Yes, and Frankie and Mr. Henry, the bright blue one, came from the shelter together back around 2011 or 2013, one of those 2 years.
Okay.
And then finally on the far right, we have Philip, who my mom changed her name to Phillis because we figured out that she's a girl.
It's even trending in birds. I have a niece who is a nephew, so
yes,
you know
the cool thing about Phillis, or Philip Phillis, is that Phyllis has a tumor, has had a tumor, like a thickening in the chest. And I found when I did Reiki with her, basically I go through my symbols and my mantras and all that good stuff. And I do, okay, this is kind of, I'm going off the track a little bit, but it's really important to do the self-care Reiki before you work on other people or other animals.
Well, that's really good. For those of us who are healers, I just took T-Touch, and again, they said the same thing. It says, you have to get yourself in a good vibration before you start trying to bring something good into your animals. And it makes a lot of sense. But thank you for that. That's a gem.
Yes, but I did it on, I do the Reiki for all of them. And usually I find I hold my hands like a foot away on either side of the bird. And they'll only take it about 2 minutes typically. Yeah. And then they're like, okay, I'm over it. And I move away. I don't know if your animals do that too. Maybe.
Yeah, it's very short. There's no, I think humans, we've built up barriers, and it's whatever it is. But I don't think animals do it. It's like, yeah, we don't need Niagara Falls. We just need, a small amount, and we're good.
Yes, and we went to the vet after I've been doing Reiki for a pretty short time, and that tumor had shrunk actually on Phyllis's chest.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, and, she looked so much better.
You noticed the improvement?
I did, yeah, because she looked kind of portly, and then she started looking like a little bird again, like that lovely sweet.
Yeah, now nutrition, of course, is a big part. I've had to kind of dial back the seed consumption and stuff like that. Now my little Bluey has, my little Mr. Henry has high blood sugar. So the vet had me charting the blood sugar to see, hey, is it stress that might be causing this, or is it bona fide diabetes? I think it's high all the time. I could tell because the droppings were very watery and everything. Now my Reiki hasn't fixed that, unfortunately, and I think that's a hard thing about Reiki for me, is that you can, you don't manipulate it. You're supposed to let it flow where it needs to flow. And that's a tough thing for me because I want to fix it.
Right. I remember I was working on a friend of mine, Deval, and he had an arm issue. And I went and I thought, doing long distance, thinking about the arm. So Deval, how do you feel? I called him back. He says, yeah, the arm still hurts, but boy, my lower back feels a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay. Right? It's because the bodies, I guess we trust the body's intelligence to know what's the priority.
Yes, so for him, I work on his nutrition too. And okay, for all of them, I put turmeric in brown rice because that's like an anti-inflammatory.
And turmeric and brown rice.
Yeah. And I really need to do better with cooking vegetables, but I gave them like sweet potato yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Try to stay organic.
Okay. Okay.
Try to stay organic when I can. The dark leafy greens are like super important
Okay. This
for
is
them.
really good.
But the one product, usually I try to do human grade whenever I can, but occasionally you just can't get it human grade. And one instance, I used the Harrison's Flora Fauna, which is kind of a probiotic.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put a pinch of that on the brown rice. And I'm hoping that that is regulating the blood sugar a little bit because, you can't do the blood work, you can't, whatever. All you can do is look at their urates and their droppings,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of tough with birds because they're so delicate. I mean, you can't do chemo, you can't do radiation, you don't do anything like you might with a dog or cat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let me circle around. Thank you for all. That's really good information.
I hope that wasn't too much information.
No. It's really good because I wanted to know about what you do to keep them healthy. Do you know what? I was surprised that birds ended up in shelters. Do you know what's going on? I mean, so maybe there's people out there that were thinking, "Oh, I never thought of a bird," but are birds in shelters that people need or can take home and.
Well, I think a foolish thing that people do for other animals, not for, but they do it to the detriment of other animals, including birds. They give animals as gifts.
Oh.
Like I remember one of my birds who crossed the Rainbow Bridge a while ago. Some people had gotten the bird as a gift for their 5-year-old. And I'm like, really? And then they're like, oh, we don't want to take care of it.
Oh.
Or whatever. So that poor little bird ended up in the shelter.
Okay.
Other birds escape out the window or the door.
Oh.
And so the people are heartbroken. They're crushed. They've lost their beloved pet. And this poor little thing. Now, some foolish people think after the animal has been domesticated, oh, just let it out the window. Just let it free because I don't want it anymore. Oh God, really? Because they're bright colors and the hawks, above. See them. I live by National Cathedral and that's like a constant. I don't know why, like I terrorize myself with the thoughts, but I think, oh my gosh, if there's like a bright colored bird, it's like the hawk is going to get it. It's horrible. It's like having nightmares about that, but that happens because, and I feel like, if you've domesticated an animal, you have a responsibility to that animal. And if you don't if you're not going to take responsibility, at least have the responsibility to transfer that animal to a caring person and, will take good care, I try not to get angry, but I get angry like so much about that because that's a Reiki principle, of course, just for today, I won't get angry. And I get angry about that kind of thing.
Yeah. I like talking about it so that we are more thoughtful about decisions that we make about our animals and giving gifts. That was a big deal when we were kids, and it just seemed chicks would be given.
Or bunny rabbits.
Think we're not doing bunny rabbits and yeah, they're cute. We haven't thought it through. So yeah, thank you for that. It's like think it through. This is not a little toy that you twist and they walk around cute. It's a sentient being. And I know anybody who's listening to this, I'm preaching to the choir now, but it's good to be reminded of that we need to really be thoughtful about how we bring animals into our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think those are the two main reasons. Just the animal was taken on a whim without learning about it. Sometimes, well, for dogs and cats, the vet bills sometimes are prohibitive. I mean, I know, again, I've had to learn not to judge people because, oh my gosh, people don't have the money, their back is against the wall and they don't know what to do. Maybe they lose their home.
Yeah.
Maybe they're living under a bridge with their dog. There are a lot of homeless people like that. And I know I'm going off the bird topic, but I'm kind of going back to the don't judge people, just try to help them.
Yeah, I try not to to do that either. Yeah. So yeah, it's a much better place to come from and help the animal as best as you can and do as well as you can. Uh, Let me ask you, but I'm going to take you back to birds because I love this idea. Talk about the effects of music. That's a big deal for you and your birds. How do you, why is, I love music.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure my dogs care a whit, but what about, it seems like it's different for birds?
Yeah, birds will kind of feel the music in their whole body. They're really sensitive to it, and especially their feet. Like they can really feel vibrations in their feet.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the only factor, but that's a factor that they have that we probably don't have. I think it really calms them. They like the classical music. Like I think that they moved to that little cage maybe to be close to it because I turned it down for our interview today.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they're not in the big cage right now. Or maybe they want to be closer. I don't know why they did that, but yeah. And I think Sunday night, actually, we listened to the 89.3, that I want to call it PFW. It's the Latin music. And
Yeah.
they get all fired up about that. They shout and they fly. But I think there's a time and a place for different music. And I think too, just like children, they like their routine. It's just like, oh, Sunday night, we listen to Latin music. We get down, we dance, and whatever, we sing,
I love that.
Yeah.
You talked about free flight time as well. I'm assuming that's the equivalent of letting my dogs outside for a walk or off leash a little bit. But talk to me about that too. Like,
Well, I feel like flight is who they are.
um,
And I have to be frank, I have to review notes that I have about this. There's an organization actually that your viewers might like to check out their website. It's very comprehensive.
okay,
And I have to review the information periodically because there's so much. And it's phoenixlanding.org.
phoenixlanding.org. Okay, I'm going to put it in the notes
Yes,
so people can find it. Thank you.
yes. And if we have a chance to talk again, I can explain it better. But basically, their brains are so connected to their flight apparatus and everything. It's something that they need to do. It's a very whole body kind of, whole-minded, holistic kind of thing for them to fly.
Got it.
Yeah, and it's just they're very joyful when they fly too. It's something that they do together as a flock. It's one will kind of make a noise, like a little noise, and everybody flies in formation. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Lovely.
and it's a beautiful thing to see, but it's so much, that's what I meant by flight, is who they are. It's something that they have to do to be who they are.
I saw that this morning. I was walking the dogs and I heard the crows and I looked up and there were about 24 crows and they were all speaking and talking. And then about 2 minutes later, I thought, oh, those are the guys who slept in because there were like 4 or 5. I'm like, there's always a couple that hit the snooze button. Like, even in the bird world. But I saw it too. There was just some joy and around and running and not running, but flying and talking and all going in the same direction. Yeah, it was lovely. So you let your birds have that too, that fly time.
All day. The only times that, and I think there are times when they should be locked up. Times like that is if you have people coming and going, so they don't get out the door. Maybe if I'm cleaning, if I turn on the vacuum cleaner, I'm like, if anybody's on the floor, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
When else? Yeah, when I'm cleaning, and also, when I'm cleaning, also I close the toilet or any kind of like standing water source so they won't drown. There are all kinds of things where if you haven't had birds before, you don't think of these things.
No, I wouldn't have.
Yeah, when else? Yeah, at night, like when I turn off all the lights, because sometimes they have what you call a night fright, and they start flapping really frantically in the night. It's like if we had a nightmare and we woke up screaming or something. Um, and you don't want them to come flying out of the cage and hit the wall. So you wanna close all the cage. Like my huge cage, I have 2 side doors, and it's easy to forget to shut those side doors for some reason. I've
Yeah.
been guilty of that myself. So yeah, those are the only times I really lock them up. But otherwise, they are free all day. They're free probably at least 12 hours.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. I didn't realize you could do that with your birds.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say one more thing is
So,
that if the door is open, like people are like, how do you get them back in the cage? People don't know.
mm,
Well, it's not an issue. The cage is their home. It's not a prison. So they know that they can leave whenever they want. So they're not trying to get out. It's just they hang out there, you know?
well, and again, in the birds in my neighborhood, I noticed that there's like a certain hour in the day where everybody's flying back this way. And so I think it seems like they're going east in the morning and they're coming back west. So so your birds are doing the same as everybody else. We know where to go when it's time to sleep.
Yes, and another big thing they love to do is watch the ground feeders outside, like the mourning doves. And the first time, Phyllis, because of her tumor, sometimes she'll, even now, her balance is a little bit affected, and sometimes she'll go to the floor, and I'll think, oh my gosh, she might get hurt or something, or she might be hurt or something. Um, and the first time she started shouting and flapping, and I heard it from the kitchen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? Is she stuck? Is she whatever? And I came running out, and she was just relating to the mourning doves
Oh,
outside.
wonderful.
Yes, and Philip was actually found outside as a stray. So I think what happened was when Philip was outside, a street bird, I think Philip might have, Phyllis, I keep alternately, Phyllis was hanging out with the mourning doves. And when
Uh,
she sees them, she just starts
she
frantically
remembers.
shouting and
And
reacts to them in a way that the
yeah,
other 3 do not.
I see. Yeah, good
Interesting.
memories. That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, uh, talk to me a little bit about bird nutrition. I've got some notes here. So diabetes and other ailments. You talked a little bit about that, but I'd love to hear anything that you've learned. Um,
Okay.
and I trust that I'm asking you to share this because I know that you have done your research, and it's not like Maribeth just reading from a book. You actually have them. You love them, and you're taking care of them. So anything you can share, I would appreciate that.
Sure. Well, I think we all feel like a bad mom or a bad parent sometimes whether it's children or animals. But something that I need to do more often that I've learned to do, and there's no excuse for me not doing it because I know to do it. We do something called chop, actually, and that's when you put brown rice. You maybe put some egg in there, some hard-boiled egg. You have to boil it extra time. Um, let's see, organic dark green vegetables, like you can
Did
put a
you
little broccoli,
can it
carrots.
is it called CHOP? CHOP? Is that what I
Yes, yes, I believe that there's a recipe on the phoenixlanding.org
heard? Okay.
site, and I've printed one out. It's just I need to take the time to put everything in there that needs to go.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make
Yes,
sure I heard it right.
yes, we call it chop. And that's a way of getting the nutrients into them that they need, but you have to be really careful to take egg out of the cage out within 2 hours because it starts to form bacteria. So
Oh,
honestly, that's why sometimes during the workday I don't do it. If I'm gonna do it, I do it at night or early when I can be hyper vigilant about getting the egg back out of the cage.
I
So
got it.
that's why I give them stuff without the egg so that it can be in there a little bit longer and be okay. Still, perishable, but not so much. One thing that's really important for parrots, including parakeets, is to give them enrichment. Like, not only do they need toys, but mine like to shred baby carrots.
Oh.
So I screw them between the bars. Like, I make a little carrot forest, on top of the cage and in the sides of the cage. And they shred these carrots. It's amazing.
So the way, because I have a friend that I need to tell them about this. Hopefully they'll watch the video. But you hang them from like do you hang them from the ceiling of the cage, or how do you
Well, when you have baby carrots
Yeah,
or
yeah,
big carrots that are narrow enough, you can screw them between the bars so they stay there.
okay.
So I put them on top of the cage. I make a little forest, and then I put them in the sides. And I put them in the sides of the cage. And sometimes somebody will perch on like 4 baby carrots that I have going up and like shred all the way down until they practically fall because they don't have a perch anymore because they shredded it. It's really neat. And then another thing I do is I take either organic kale or organic parsley, and I put the stems. You got to break the stems, of course, to let the fresh water in, and you get it really wet. And I put it in the top of the cage. I put very shallow filtered water in a little glass, like a Pyrex pie plate. And I put the greens in there with water, and they like to bathe. They like to like crawl around on their belly.
I think I've seen that. I think I've seen that. You've got some YouTube videos of
You
that.
saw a video on that.
Yes, I did.
A while ago. I didn't know if you'd remember it because
I
it was
do.
like a little cameo. Cricket likes to do that. She looks like a little duck swimming around. And then I take it and I put it on the, I binder clip it to the side of the cage and put the stems in the drinking water too. And some of them will bathe there if they don't feel like getting in their dish, because sometimes they're frightened. And I think it's really important to have a clear dish because they need to see how deep it is. They won't get in a dark, opaque dish because they're like, oh, I don't know how deep that is.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, nutrition, it's good to give them a certain amount of pellets, but they need a certain amount of seed though, because people think, oh, seed is bad, no seed. But seed, they're granivores. They come from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They come from Australia. So grain, grass, grassland, that's them. That's their natural habitat. So you want to give seed, but not all seeds. You need to balance it with those fresh foods that I told you about, but also pellets. And not the colored pellets, not like the Zoo. I don't trust the Zoo. Not that Zupreme is a bad brand or anything, but if you're using it, I would prefer not to put colors in it that they don't need, anything they don't need. But I like the Harrison's pellets. And again, I'm not trying to endorse anybody. I'm not sure if this is bad for me to mention brand names.
I just ask people to do their own due diligence. I have no issue with what people use. So yeah, go ahead and just give your recommendation and then be smart. Check it out for yourself, right? That's what we're supposed to do.
Harrison's pellets, I do the adult lifetime super fine for my little guys. And then if they're sick, there's also a high potency one, but that's not good to use if they're healthy. It's almost like vitamin overload, I think. I forgot to mention something else that I do that's holistic, but it's kind of, I don't know, it seems like there's not a lot written and not a lot proven. So as far as doing due diligence, this is just something I've done on my own. The essential oils, I know it's hard to trust. I wouldn't use any brand but Young Living. What I do is I take a drop of sacred frankincense. Actually, I put a drop on a little scrap of paper towel and I binder clip it. Again, binder clips. I don't know what I would do without them. But I put it either on the top of the cage or the side. At bedtime, I put it near, usually they sleep on swings at night. I put it near them and that's supposed to work on tumors too. Now on people or dogs or cats, you might put it on the bottom of their feet.
Yeah. I did some frankincense today. There's a number of good. There are trustworthy essential oils out there.
Yes. Yes,
So
you have to be really
you
careful.
do, you do. You don't want anything that does synthetic or non-organic or, oh my goodness, you
Or
know.
or the kind people put in a diffuser for scent. Some of those, would be lethal. So
Yeah, they
you're
would.
right.
And so do really watch with them. And there's also hydrosols, which is the steam that comes from doing essential oils, and that's very light. So that one, that just, I've been reading about that. So that's another one that I want to just throw in there to say,
What is it called? Hydra?
hydrosols,
Okay.
Hydrosols.
Oh,
And
okay.
so there, if it's, and it's essential oils and the steam, or there's a lot of steam. So, oh, I'm sharing something good. So,
I'm writing it down.
hydrosols are just, the steam essence rather than the oil itself, which is very light. And I I think that that's also an option that people can have when they're, you're really worried about your birds. And that little bit of essential oil that you've got, that's fantastic. Um, but that's another place to look, is a
Another
hydrosol.
thing that might be a little off the track, but with bird care, is that in the winter when you have your heat on, it's very tough on their breathing, that dry air. And so I use a humidifier,
Okay,
but I use ideally a warm air humidifier. A lot of them are cold air. So if you have warm air humidifier, that's the ideal.
okay, that's good
Yeah.
information. Well, time has really flown. I want to
I
say
know.
thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take us, off the track or talk
I
too
don't
long
think
about it.
so. I think the track was just wide. And sometimes we were over here and sometimes we were over here, but we were always going in the direction of things that we want to. I think if you're interested in birds,
Yeah.
this is all good stuff. Thank you so much.
But what
Uh,
didn't I answer? I know
looking
you had a
through
list
here.
there.
Yeah.
What's your burning question that we can
Um,
get to?
you know, okay. I don't know how, let's see, how will I ask this? What, what, what kind of person are you if you like birds? I mean, so what's the ideal personality for somebody to say, okay, I think a bird's right for me and I'll be right for a bird? Maybe it's not that way, or why would people choose birds? Any way you want to say that. Just talk to me a little bit
Okay.
about it.
Um, I know people are kind of wary of you if you're a bird lady because it's kind of like being a cat lady.
I'm thinking Mary Poppins and the lady that was feed the birds. Okay.
Tuppence a bag. Yep. Yep. I actually, they think about this. People are funny. When I say that I have birds, they look very concerned, like, how many do you have? Like some kind of a hoarder or something. And I've never been that. I mean, I take excellent care of my birds. I've had up to 7 before. Sometimes they're old and sick when they come from the shelter. But I think when you take in a bird, you need to love the bird where they're at. Sometimes I thought of another reason why a bird might end up in a shelter. Again, not trying not to be angry, but people want the bird for entertainment, like they want it to talk. That's the big reason. It's like, oh my gosh, this bird doesn't talk. What a loser. I'm going to dump it in the shelter. So you got to be the kind of person who's okay maybe with being bitten in the beginning.
Okay.
When they're frightened. It's kind of like with a cat, like somebody took in a cat from out, a feral cat, basically, and the cat earned her trust. Actually, I put up a video on my YouTube about this, and the lady had to walk around in high boots because the cat would like ambush her from the back. But you have to be that kind of person who is willing to take the physical pain and not be entertained, and not just to love them where they're at. I think it's like taking a child maybe from the foster system. Like a lot of times they're going to be on their model behavior when they're being shown off, when they need a home, but then they might act out when they're finally in a safe place. And I think that's going to happen with the birds too. They're going to act out. They're frightened. They're angry. Maybe, I don't know if they're angry, but you just gotta, you gotta ride with that. You gotta just ride that, and know that you will gain their trust eventually, and that sometimes maybe birds will always bite you at one point or another. I know there are African greys maybe who might bite, and it's like, why did you bite me? You know? And people don't take that time to understand them. So I think you really need to be patient. You need to have a little bit of a threshold for pain, and you have to really do your research and understand, well, why is this bird biting me? You know, what am I doing? Maybe that the bird is misinterpreting or whatever. Yeah. So I think that's the kind of people who have birds. I mean, and people who don't understand us are very like, oh, that's kind of weird, you know, but
Yeah.
I hope, I don't know if, did that answer?
It did. That did. You know, I'm gonna go back. I did T-touch training. We had to do it online because of the pandemic. But they had a parrot on, and they were, in talking about the biting, they were T-touch is actually a certain touch, a spiral touch, but they were using wands and to touch the bird as a way of getting their trust and doing something enjoyable. So there are, which I didn't know about 2 weeks ago, ways to connect with your bird that might help you.
And you have to understand that something bad might have happened with hands before, and they see your hands, they're like, oh my God, because somebody might have grabbed them. You know, somebody might have violated their space.
Got it.
And you're bringing up a good point about, because really just training them to step up, they maybe aren't going to do it on your hand. You know, they might step up on a ladder. It's like, even now, if Phillis goes to the ground and maybe has trouble getting the leverage to get up to the cage, I still take the ladder and put my hand underneath so that Philip won't fall, Philip, whatever, and kind of lift up to the cage. Yeah.
So you figure something out. Yeah. And so I've had rescue dogs and actually some cats too, where I had to spend a little time working through it. So I see what you're saying, that expect a little time and figure out ways to interact with them that makes them feel safe.
Yeah.
That sounds really good. Thank you so much, Erin. I appreciate the time we've had together. I will get some information on, Michelle, put your YouTube site so people can see Cricket doing her thing.
Her little bath.
Her little bath thing, and then the landing.org, I'll put that in there too. So thank you so much for our time together. This is wonderful.
Oh, and thank you for having me. There's actually one more website, and that is the citywildlife.org. I know that's off the track too, but that's another resource for it. If there's an injured bird or rabbit or anything outside, citywildlife.org. They're going to have training actually in the spring for feeding baby squirrels and all that stuff. So I know that's a little off.
They're in DC, right? Washington, DC, yeah?
They sure are. They're over in Northeast. They're right by the shelter over there on Oglethorpe.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely check the website.
Local folks, that means something.
Yes. And you can check the website for the DC shelter too, that over there on Oglethorpe, or I think they closed on New York Avenue finally, but they have parakeets and bunnies and everything over there. If people are ready to make the commitment, that's a good resource. Don't don't shop, adopt, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All righty.
Thank you for having
so much.
me.
All right.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.